I've seen so many people on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn talking about feed optimization, but the problem is no one actually explains how you do it. So my goal with this video is just going to be to explain the exact kind of components of your of how to optimize your shopping ads, and really how to do it, right? So there are really 5 key components I would focus on, those being your titles, your descriptions, your image links, GTINs, custom labels, and then let's say 6, so product type. So I'm going to go into all of them, really how you can optimize it, how you can edit it, and how you can fix it for your account, how you can make your account perform better. Because at the end of the day, your shopping results actually come outside of the platform itself. You can't do as much in terms of Google ads, in terms of, yeah, you can adjust your bidding strategies, you can add negative keywords, but you can't really improve your campaign structure, or it's not like a search campaign where you have headlines, descriptions, everything's pulled from your feed. So what this video is focused on is how do you actually improve your feed. Probably heard that word a million times, but my recommendation towards being able to edit your titles, your descriptions, and everything that I mentioned is going to be to use DataFeedWatch. You don't have to use DataFeedWatch. I'm not sponsored by them, but that's just the feed management tool I like. The reason being, you can make very easily, you can make bulk changes. So let's dive right into it. All right, so right here, we're actually in DataFeedWatch, that tool that I was mentioning. This is pretty much after you set up an account, set up your feed. I'm not really going to go into that in this video, but I can, add some more information if needed in the comments. So let me know if you want to see that as well or get some information about that. I can send some documentation, but moving on to the actual feed. So the way that I can explain this is the information that is present here is pulled from your website backend. So whatever product data, the number of products, the SKUs, the titles, descriptions, links, you name it, that is all pulled from your website. Then what we're going to do, and this is how you actually activate the tool, you can say in Merchant Center. In Merchant Center, you add a data source, and all of that information is pulled from this feed, all the information that you're putting into DataFeedWatch. So instead of using the automatically pulled kind of feed from your website, be it the content API, if you're on Shopify, maybe you're uploading with a Google Sheet, you don't need to do that if you're using this. And the good thing is you can make bulk changes very easily. This is the number one reason I love it, because you don't have to, for example, add product type 300 to 300 products. Like you can do everything in bulk. You can add certain things to the titles. So going off of the first thing, for example, again, this is a default mapping, but what you can do here is you can combine. So there's different kind of options you can choose. You can even read it. You can combine. So you can choose, for example, title, and then you can say, you can add your brand, for example. And again, you have to have these kind of attributes present, and you can create more if you don't have brand, which I can show as well. You can add gender. I don't have gender for this site, but because it's not relevant, but you can add color, perhaps. Color you can add. So essentially what you're doing, instead of having the title that you're just pulling from Shopify. So on Shopify, you might have like black men's t-shirt or black t-shirt, or even worse, like a part number. You can manipulate that title without affecting what you're doing on the site. And what you push for, Google Shopping, what you push towards ads, you can edit all of that here. So anything on your website remains unchanged. This is just what you're editing for your ads. So again, that's just some examples of what you can add in this screenshot. These are actually the recommended title notations that DataFeedWatch created. I use this as a loose guide, to be honest. But again, if you're a little bit stuck of what to add, this is a really good kind of guideline, because it really just includes all the information that an actually good feed would have. So for example, apparel. So you can say like the brand, the gender, and then the product type, attributes, and you can just pull this again all from DataFeedWatch. If you don't have certain attributes, then you might have to create them. Again, I think that merits a separate video just because it's a little bit more complicated. But typically, if you're using Shopify, you should have decent attributes that you can pull and you can use. The one other thing I would say is I would use like a separator, because otherwise it's going to jumble all the information together. You can do this one. You can do just like the actual kind of standing block or whatever you call it. And I would do that in between each. The other thing that you can do is you can split test here. So you can pretty much test two different titles against each other. The one thing that I don't like is you don't have as much insight into performance. For now, I would just stick with one title if you're brand new as an advertiser, or brand new to using this tool. Sorry. So that's what I would mention. But that's really the rules in terms of title. I'd say title is one of the most, if not the most important thing for your shopping ads, because think of it like your keywords, right? Front load the most important information of what you want to, essentially the type of people that you want to target, the terms you want to target at the start of the title. Keep in mind, you can only have it up to 150 characters, so no longer than 150 characters, or else it's going to be cut off, something you also don't want. And that's also why you should kind of restructure your title. If it's super long on your website, then you can go in here and adjust that. And the separator thing as well, you can do it here. It's just sometimes it doesn't space correctly, which is why I did kind of like a manual enter text one. But not too complicated, should be simple. Moving on to the next thing, I'm just going to go in terms of what I see. One thing that I like to do is, obviously you want to make sure that your descriptions are present. At the very worst case, you can just use your title, because if your description is not being pulled from the website, that's a problem. Because again, the same thing, you're providing Google with information about pretty much keywords to target, which search terms to match your product ads to. And also, for a user, I mean, there's just more information, right? If you have a blank description, another advertiser has one. Number one, your ranking might be worse. Number two, that person will likely just choose that option. So at the very least, you can just rename and use title. Not recommended. Typically, it should pull the description. If it doesn't for you, you can put a comment in the video, and I can kind of try to explain on how to help that out, how to help you out. Descriptions, titles, super important. Image links are really important. I would say also making sure that you have additional image links, because let's say it's on the actual shopping section, not just like the first results in Google search, but like if you click that tab for Google Shopping, somebody can actually scroll through and look at additional image links. Again, probably have a white background for your first product, for your first product image, and then lifestyle ones or kind of product features in the other ones. You probably already have this on your site, so just make sure it's mapped correctly here. It should by default, but just saying. And that being said as well, I mean, in terms of product images, that's also super important. So I would say make sure you have a kind of clear product image with a white background. That's what Google likes. But on the other hand, if you do competitor research and you're just searching your target keywords and you see that your competitors, they all have white backgrounds as well, then that's your opportunity to be polarizing. Because the way that you win with Google Shopping is being better and different from other advertisers. You actually don't need an insane budget. You can compete against Home Depot, Amazon. I've seen this, work out as well. Just have a better image, because you could show up in the 5th spot. But if your ad, your product image, your angle, your title is more captivating than that of a competitor's, your CTR is going to be higher. Google's going to reward you for that, because you're making them more money. More people are clicking compared to how many are seeing. And in turn, you're going to see more conversions too. So something to keep in mind on that front. For my next point, I wanted to talk about product segmentation. This is super important on your end. So the way that you structure your shopping campaigns, if again, you have to, when you create the campaign, you can go to the ad group and then you can go to listing groups. So I'm going to show an actual breakdown now. So if we look right here, I just made kind of like a test ad group within one of my shopping campaigns, but you can, this is what by default Google is going to make you do, because you create it, and then you have all products. The problem is there's no organization. Think of it like you have 300 keywords jumbled into one campaign, one ad group for search. The same principle here. It's not going to work out well. Maybe it will, but very unlikely. So you want to be clear with how you segment. And that's why you have something called custom labels. So custom labels right here, you can select from them. Now, again, if you don't have a feed optimization tool, very, very difficult to set these up because in Merchant Center, it can be manual. There are rules and there are ways to do it. Again, it's just more tedious and more manual. I want to avoid that, especially you being a business owner. Probably want to avoid it as well and do things as efficient as possible. So that's where you want to map custom labels. So going back to DataFeedWatch, you can add a optional field right here. So let's say custom label, right? Exactly what I mentioned. And you can even read the description here. For example, you can add up to 5 custom labels. Which one you choose does not matter. This is for your own organization and campaign organization. So the way that I like to do this, the easiest way is to do it based on your titles. So your titles from your website, for example. So if, let's say, you have t-shirts, I don't know, let's say you're an apparel store. This is a very, very generic example, but you want to have your t-shirts in a certain category. You want to have your pants, you want to have your shoes, you want to have your hoodies. Basically, you're saying add static value to this label only if title contains t-shirt. Okay. And then all products which contain this in the title are going to be pushed to this label. Exact same rule if you add hoodies, if you add pants, if you add shoes, does not matter. And then in this custom label, again, like you can have as many options as you want. The way to think of it is like, you can't really rename the custom labels or anything, but you can use one, for example, to be like your best sellers. And you have all of your best sellers by product type, for example, in one of the labels. In another label, you can even do something else. So let's say you only want to target products over $1,000, and you want to split up the ones that are 500 to 1,000 as well. So the way that you do that is you can say add static value $1,000 plus only if price is greater than, or we can say greater than or equal to 1,000. Only if, so we can say that only if price is greater than or equal to 1,000. And then for the next one, we can do $500 to $9.99. And only if price is greater than 500 and price is less than 1,000. Okay. So that's another rule that you can do. I'd say those two are the best options. If you have a new account, best course of action would just be to segment by like your best selling product type. So if you have like 5 product types that do really, really well, again, it can even be 1, it can be 2. I would just set it up that way. And then when you go back into the platform, again, if you've set everything up correctly, you can go to custom label and select it, and then select the different options. So this will not be empty. Something to keep in mind as well is it may take about a day to sync. Sometimes it takes a second. So that's why I would just say be patient if you're not seeing it sync. If it's more than a day and you're not seeing it at all, something might be wrong in terms of your feed, like your actual connection. So that's something I would look out for. You can also reach out to the DataFeedWatch support team. Again, I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I like the tool. I think it's a good way to optimize your campaigns. And then the last, or one of the last things that I wanted to mention. So obviously product identifiers, I was saying, so GTIN. So if you're adding, GTIN is basically Google's way of saying a UPC code. So add this on your website backend. I 100% would say that because it's going to sync into here. So in your Shopify, there's a section for SKU, and then there's a section for UPC. Add your UPCs if applicable. It's the same. Think of it from Google's side, the same thing as your title. You are telling it, this is the identifier of my product, and this is pretty much like what it is. It's Google's way of like looking at your title. Think of it. You're just making it easier for it to match searches towards your product. It's another key point of info that Google needs. So make sure that's mapped. Worst case, you can add like a supplemental feed. So supplemental feed is like an addition to your actual feed. I don't want to confuse anybody too much, so I'm not going to show it in this video, but that's for a later video. The last thing that I wanted to mention here is you can categorize products. So also very, very, very important. What this does is, again, it's another key point of insight for the algorithm. You're telling it what actual bucket does your product fall under. And I'm going to put in Google's product taxonomy, literally like thousands upon thousands of different categories you can choose from. My suggestion, Command F, and then specifically to your product. So like something I see right here, right? If you sell cat litter boxes, 100% you want this to be your Google product type or Google product category. So you go back, you can go to DataFeedWatch, and you can assign a default category. So if you know all of your products, for example, fall under that bucket, you can just select it and push it there. On the other hand, if you sell several different items, so like you have one for t-shirts and one for t-shirt for kids, so you can go by again other types. So you can go by like product type that you have, and this is what you enter on your backend and your Shopify, and then you can map that back to Google's taxonomy. You can go by certain titles. So if you know certain products contain X title and they should be for this category, you can do that as well. Another thing to keep in mind is you can allow DataFeedWatch to auto categorize with their AI. If you're pretty busy on time, I would say this is pretty good. And like I said, you can use product type, product category. You can go by collections as well. You can go by tags. I would say just play around with the options you have, and then you can select from there. And again, that's something that's going to help with performance, because you're giving Google more information about what your products are, right? Aside from the title, aside from the image, you're giving it an easier way to rank you. And again, if it's easier for it to rank you, your CPCs are also going to be cheaper. Your feed quality is better. And again, you can spend more budget. You can spend more budget more efficiently, which means, again, you're going to get more conversions. This video was useful and you were able to get an understanding of really how you optimize a feed. This will merit, several other videos, just because I can't go over everything in one video. There's a lot of information. If you want to see more daily tips from me, you can go to my X profile. It's linked in my bio. And from there, feel free to DM me, feel free to leave any comments here on this video. Happy to help.